Good morning, everyone. This is Gen Con 2025. This is Just One More Role, writing mysteries for RPGs. My name is Ross Payton. I'm the host of Role Playing Public Radio and the co-host of Blood or Narrative Distance podcasts. I also write RPGs. I've written Base Raiders. I've written for Eclipse Phase, a bunch of other games, and a lot of horror stuff. I've run games and written them over the years, and then I love writing, running mystery games and writing them, and of course my co-host for this panel.
Hi everybody, I'm Caleb Stokes. I write for Arc Dream Publishing, specifically Delta Green, the role-playing game, and I can be found online at Habaddon Games Open Design and Delta Green Dead channels on Patreon. And I pretty much only write mysteries. I write noirs when I'm not writing supernatural noirs, and then when they make me write superhero books, I turn those into superhero mysteries. So I only know how to do the one thing. So hopefully I can help y'all when you dip into that.
But, mysteries can be a lot of fun in a role-playing game, but it's very easy to screw up running one. And I think the most common thing is to make it too hard for the players or to make it too easy. Because, a mystery is a type of puzzle. It's about not only finding the clues, but also interpreting them. You're given incomplete information. You're trying to, figure out something that is not easily known. And it can be done in any kind of genre. Caleb and I usually run and write horror mysteries, like Delta Green, Call of Cthulhu, and that sort of thing, because investigative horror lends itself, or investigation mysteries are pretty linked to horror in a lot of ways. But I just, was hard, you can make mysteries fun in an RPG by, I think the common thing is to emulate mystery novels and make it a very elaborate puzzle that's very hard to figure out. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be about finding the clues. That they're making the challenge in getting the clues. Finding the witness, finding the piece of evidence, the MacGuffin. It doesn't have to be an incredibly elaborate puzzle. I mean, the joke for the GM is you want to challenge your players, find puzzles for elementary school kids and rewrite them. You have a goose, a fox, and a bag of grain, but it's against I think there's so many ways to approach writing mysteries and running them that it's better if we just kind of first, Caleb, what is your sort of thesis on mysteries?
Well, I think if you're talking high-level stuff, the thing that people screw up the most is the mastermind problem. You have to accept that if you're writing a mystery that you intend players to engage with, you're writing about someone who sucks at doing crime. Most crimes are completely escaped without justice. They don't have the manpower to do it. They don't have the acumen to do it. It's a genuinely very smart person. And then that is not a crime that your players get to engage with because there's no clues. They can't find anything. They didn't see it happen. And so when everybody's Moriarty, you've just written yourself out of your own story. So your antagonist, the thing that you're trying to solve, has to screw up. And you have to acknowledge that sometimes that's going to be stupid, because that's how most criminals get caught. And you have to give that to your players somewhat generously, because it's not going to lead them as a straight line to what they need to do. There's any number of things you can do within whatever game system you're doing to obstruct that, to make it a hero's journey, to make it a struggle and give them an arc to get to the answers. But the most common mistake I see people doing is they design the perfect crime, and that story's over. You can't get into it. It's the perfect crime. If you design a crime, that's one story that's over, and it intersects with whatever your players are going to do about that through where the antagonist screwed up. So they can't be perfect. You have to accept that, if my immoral wizard is a serial killer, maybe he doesn't get how metadata works on photos on his phone. Maybe he missed that being 400 years old and from Sicily. Your investigator can be what a dummy, but that's how it happens. So that would be but that's my broad picture of where people typically get off on off the track on mysteries. They try and design the perfect conspiracy, the perfect criminal endeavor, the perfect murder, and then they achieve it, and then there's nothing for the players to do, because you have to accept that those things happen. People get away with it. And a lot of people don't get away with it for like very tiny, dumb reasons or very huge, glaring omissions. And you got to give those to your players so they have something to work with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I think if you're all interested in writing mysteries, you probably have some questions for us. So let's. Does anybody have? Is anybody trying to work on a mystery? Right? Yeah.
This is a dumb question, but I guess it's for the whole group. My biggest problem was that I couldn't get them to take adequate notes, so they didn't remember the clues they'd already found.
Yeah.
And the only solution I came up with was to literally tell them that one of them had to take key mind as a feat, so that I could then tell them what they remembered. I think that's a better idea.
Yeah, so like the thing that it's important to remember on that is like you can be a sort of externalized memory for your players, because yes, they need to take notes and they need to engage with it, but you never want to be like, you need to take Cornell style notes in exactly this format on a worksheet I've given you. Like that is going to be suck the fun out of things. And with scheduling, there's so much time that passes between. It's difficult for a player to get into the mind of whatever their investigator or agent or detective knew 4 weeks ago. So, I mean, what I do is that when I run a complex mystery, as I'm running it, I will highlight bits of information that I know I've given out. And then if I run online or if I'm writing in the marginalia, I'll just put an initial next to who found it. And then the second the players get together and debrief, I just erase the initial and leave it highlighted. And then when it comes to something that they are obviously missing or something that I have given them the information for, you are all information to your players. You are sight, sound, touch, taste. You are memory. So you can say, well, actually, Detective whatever would remember that that timestamp corresponds exactly with this other thing you found, and you can point that out. And sometimes you have to do that. Most of the time you don't have to do it forever, because I usually find I have to do that once or twice, and then everybody ramps back up to oh yeah, I remember I saw that, and they start processing again. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's just an immersion issue, and if you give them a freebie by just reminding them things that happened previously in the story, because you get to be the voice of last time on, that gets people more engaged pretty fast, in my experience.
There's also, depending on your playing, and if you're comfortable with it, you can record your sessions and have it, get it transcribed, so you can just have a transcript of it, so players can skim through that real quick, or give players a bonus, a Benny, or some sort of reward for as soon as the game ends, write up a paragraph of what happened, what important notes, so in a Google Doc somewhere. And that's a shared thing with a document. When I ran Impossible Landscapes, I created a Miro pin board, which is an online pin board service. And so I put all the clues and handouts on there so the players could refer to that. And they could write their own notes and make their own, little theories that I definitely didn't draw on to make it weirder, because it's Impossible Landscapes. It's King and Yell stuff. So there's some, yeah. Very good question. So we had a couple hands raised. In the very nice suit.
It's a jumper.
Yeah. Jumper, yes.
Kind of dovetailing on what you were saying, where you give a Benny for writing up the results of the game.
Yeah.
We have a sickness and we record everything that we play. If we're not recording, it feels weird. But we actually give the Bennies out at the beginning of the next session for a person to do a recap. And that seems to work really well for us.
Okay, yeah. Because there are players, I think every group has at least one player who loves doing the bonus homework, and
none of us do.
Extra credit, yeah.
The physician has a Benny.
Caleb's the extra credit guy in our group.
Yeah, loves. Yeah, Atlas loves to carry the big rock on his back. Yeah, can't get enough of it. We got.
I think both of you called on that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, sorry.
Yeah. We'll do you.
There we go. Yeah, everyone's.
Now I've forgotten my question. No. I don't know a lot about the setting that you guys are used to writing for, but can you speak at all to the challenges of including mystery challenges for players who maybe can use things like spellcasting and stuff like that? I find that whenever I'm doing TTRPG mysteries and a player is like, I see through all of these walls, and also I can smell if anyone's been here in the last 48 hours, it can make things a little bit tricky to like kind of rope the mystery along, because it's like, okay, if this person can like read every thought of everyone in the room, then how do I disguise that the criminal they're hunting for is maybe in the same room as them? So is there anything to like what you guys work with that you can speak to on that?
Yeah, so the question was, sorry, I'm repeating for the podcast. The question is, how do you do mysteries and settings with supernatural powers that cut through the ability to get information? Yeah, so I work a lot in Delta Green. There's plenty of ways to do that. All of them fry your brain. So I don't feel I have to work very hard. Like when you use the ritual for the clue button, I'm like, okay, I'll give you the clue. And also like CTE or whatever the ritual does to your head. But like in other settings I've done a superhero major mystery, and the thing was not, the mystery was how did you get your powers? Because like once you get the powers, you find a bunch of information. But the mystery for the players was like, well, how did I get these powers? Why did they give them to me? And so you're trying to find a bunch of information that occurred before you got your magic clue button. So but with that kind of stuff, anybody has like a clairvoyance power or something like that, your best friend is recontextualization. You want to give them information that is detached from the interpretation of that information that you need to make it actionable. So like if I scry and see that the suspect goes fishing every week, like I can give you all the information about that guy going fishing, where I can tell you where he goes fishing and all that kind of stuff. But like once you break into the house and you realize he's got no fish in the freezer, he's got one rod and one lure, he doesn't go anywhere to get bait. You've recontextualized, what the hell is he doing out there? Like I saw him go out there, I saw him dressed like a fisherman, but now he's not actually fishing. And it's like, why? And so like you recontextualize stuff that you give them, and it becomes a clue post facto. That is the best way I found to deal with somebody that is, like I don't want to go anywhere. I want to sit and see through the ether and find the mystery. Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is that, other people in the setting usually would know about these powers, and people lie, and people are just, deceptive. So like have people use their powers against them. Like, oh, that are these detective wizards scry. Okay, we'll fake a crime scene. We'll frame someone and like set at a location that we know they'll scry at. And because the players trust their powers, they won't even like, oh, what if this whole thing is a con and we're being misled? What if, the murder victim was actually killed by, Steve, but he screamed, I am Bob, and then stabbed him. So when we speak with dead, it's like, Bob killed me, things of that nature, So I think that, the most powerful weapon is a lie, and so like something I learned from Caleb, and I think that's, played against the players. I mean, you want the players to be actually benefit from the powers. Otherwise it's, they want to feel cool, but like, once they rely too much on that power, pull the rug under them. And yeah.
The other thing you do is a mystery is puzzle, and you can give that to your players in multiple ways. So like a lot of times I will do like, I call it a simple mystery, but it's not simple. Like I wrote a scenario recently called God's Law, where it's a cult inside a Los Angeles sheriff's gang. It's very clear from like the first page, the cops did it. That is not the end of your problems. Like, well, what do I do about that? They've got 18,000 shooters on a radio call away from me, and no one's gonna have seen anything. Like that is the very beginning of the player's problems. They can know absolutely how they did it, who did it, where it happened at, and it doesn't matter because that person doesn't follow the law. Like they have no authority over them that's going to stop anything. And the problem for the players becomes like, okay, I know this. How do I survive knowing this? How do I do something about this in a system that will not help me? So it doesn't really matter if you're magic at that point, because like a lot of mysteries in our world, the mystery isn't who did it. It's very clear who did it. The mystery is how do you do something about that? Yeah.
Yeah. Great question.
Well, kind of going off that, I think that some of us might be writing stuff for Call of Cthulhu or Delta Green or what have you that is mysterious but not a mystery, right? So it's like there is an artifact or there's a location that is very mysterious, and you can get what we might call like flavor or like backstory or some kind of story depth kind of reward for it, but it's not mechanically necessary for the plot to move forward.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that the issue with writing mysteries for tabletop RPGs, right? It's like if you're writing a fiction mystery, the author, the answer to the crime or whatever, and you get to tell the reader in an interesting way. If it's a real life mystery, a lot of times it just goes unsolved, like you said, success rates and whatever. But TTRPGs, it's this middle ground where you're trying to get your players to figure it out by themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And I think maybe people are kind of scared of writing something where it's mechanically important to the plot to like find the killer or something.
Yeah.
And then players just get stuck. You give them the clues, you give them the leads, and then they just the leads go cold, right? They kind of are out of ideas. And so if you're writing something where it's mechanically important to the story to find the killer or something, and you give them all the clues, they collect as much evidence as they can, and then they just kind of get confused or stuck. Is there a way to get them unstuck that doesn't feel cheap and fake?
Ways to get players unstuck that don't feel cheap. So a mistake you could make while writing a mystery is that mysteries would typically occur at the end of other stories. Like the crime has been committed and there was probably a big lead up to that crime and a motive for those crimes and characters that did the crimes. And that is a narrative in and of itself. And so even if you are writing a RPG scenario where your players are going to be making the story, they make the story in the wake of something that's already happened. So it's kind of a half and half kind of scenario, how they deal with what this ongoing thing is. But the reason I always have my antagonists be reactive or have their own goals is like, that's how you do what is it, Raymond Chandler? Like somebody walks in the room with a gun.
Oh yeah. When
Somebody walks in.
Yeah.
two guys with guns coming through the door.
So like if you are at a point where your investigators have gathered a bunch of clues and they're getting kind of stuck, another thing that happens a lot in police investigations is that they gather a bunch of circumstantial crap that won't do anything, and then the suspect bolts. They lose it. They freak out in interrogations. They start selling all their crap and buying international plane tickets and putting big red flags over them that says, I did it, or I know who did it, or so like that's another thing you can do. Clues can fall in their lap that way just because they've been going around town. They've been showing everybody the picture of the suspect. Like that freaks people out. And another thing you can do, like especially if you're doing Call of Cthulhu or something with a bit more teeth, is that they will just flat out try and kill the people because, again, not perfect. Your mastermind, maybe they planned the crime almost perfectly and they didn't suspect your investigator to have a ritual to read their minds. Once they start panicking on that, like they can go out and try and kill your agents, your investigators. They can reveal themselves in a big way by scrambling. They're behind the ball now. This wasn't on their big pinboard plan of how to kill people. And so that's a way you can do it that doesn't feel exactly cheap because it is a reaction to what your agents or your investigators or your players are doing. So they are building the story still through their actions.
So even if the players get stuck, the world around them is not stuck.
Yeah. The person who doesn't want to go to jail or get killed is going to do things to ensure that happens, and that itself will reveal more information. Yeah.
It's not the crime; it's the cover up, right? And it's not just limited to the antagonist, the perpetrator of the crime. It's the other people around them. Like this guy gets murdered, by his business partner, and his business partner covers clues, but maybe the guy's, the dead guy's wife finds his diary later on after going through a period of grieving. It's like, a storm passes and the body gets uncovered, something like that. There's a lot of, time passes, and events happen. So I think that would help a lot. So, very good question.
So when we're thinking about linear versus sandbox scenarios, do you have advice for how to meter and clues so that it is more conducive to a sandboxing style, and it's not just this clue is this one and this one and this one, and it's very straight line.
So how do you run a mystery in a sandbox? Yes. Well, there's lots of ways to do it. There's not one way. So like Brindlewood Bay and Public Access and that whole line of games, this sort of improvisational mystery where you're sort of building the mystery as you go along and taking advantage of the sort of fuzzy memory people have between sessions to build kind of a conspiracy plot. And that's a very, easy way to do it. Those systems do that very well. Sandboxy, in terms of like where you find information. Again, I love recontextualization. For the writers in the room, your best friend as a person who is being a GM for a mystery game is the third person objective, Hemingway voice. Physically, this is what you see. It smells like this. It's this color. It's lying here. You're talking about images. You're talking about concrete physical details. And then your players, if they're really engaged, can start making inferences. And that is cool, and they're doing it. But if they're not really engaged, that's when you do a skill. So that's how you have them recontextualize the information. So for instance, like if I say a man and a woman walk up to a ticket booth, the person at the ticket booth gives them a price for 2 tickets. The man gets out his wallet, but the woman puts a hand on it and pays for the tickets. Why are they there? Well, there's a lot of things you could supposize with, like, what culture are they from? Was the man trying to pay for a date and the girl doesn't think it's a date and she wants to make sure that she doesn't have that obligation? Are they brother and sister? You can start, that's all the inference stuff you can make off the physical, like, boy, girl stood here, gave money. And that's your best bet in sandboxy stuff. Give them the raw information of what happened. And then when they don't know what that means, then you're like, oh, roll this skill, roll your anthropology skill, roll your accounting skill, and you add in like context to what you've just described. And that helps them make a non-linear path between bits of information. Yeah.
One RPG, are you familiar with Night's Black Agents? So Night's Black Agents is a gumshoe game about being secret agent, basically Jason Bourne versus vampires. And it's a very fun game, and it has this thing, what they call the conspiramid, which is like, it's a conspiracy and it's set up as a pyramid. And so like what the players do is it's kind of a sandbox thing where like there's multiple players can get they start with a couple leads on like the vampire's organization, a conspiracy that's, the vampire at the top and then, his lieutenants, then his goons at the bottom, and basically it creates this kind of ecosystem where each facet of this conspiracy is reacting to each other and going back and forth. So like, if you look at that and think of, you have all these places and people, and they're all interacting with each other. And so when the players go in the sandbox, they ripples throughout the entire structure, or at least part of it, or at least the things next to it. So that's another way to do a sandbox, is just think about like every single thing the players do will react to not just the thing they're investigating, but the things around it, Night's Black Agent has a lot of good advice for writing mysteries and investigations. Like when the players shake up the front, the laundromat, that is laundering money, literally laundering money for the bad guys, then like the organizations next to that laundromat are going to freak out, and maybe they blame each other. Maybe they don't even realize the player characters are investigating them, and that creates new circumstances for the players to gain information. So,
good luck editing this.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
the unique audio environment. Podcast next to the train track.
Get some jazz music and just make it sound like a CD bar, on the wrong side of the tracks. It's very very mysterious. So, a sandbox is more like, for your cold cases, or like the more like a linear investigation is very like, we have to solve this one murder, we have to get, we have to catch a murderer before they flee or whatever. But a sandbox, usually in my experience, is like a big open-ended mystery that is, where's the buried treasure, something like that. And everything that touches that central mystery is affected by it. And when the players touch them, that gets affected as well. So think about like how the players' interactions affect everything else, and that creates new clues and new information and new leads. Yeah. So, and Pat.
How do you begin writing a mystery, like script, like designing a mystery? Like you start with a core, the core answer to the the crime, like this is what happened, and then sort of build out like clues and things from there, or do you have different process? I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So the question is, how do you write a mystery for an RPG? It depends a lot on. I've started with a mystery, and I've started a lot of times. I will take some random idea or something I've learned and work it into a mystery. I'll give you an example. Like I last month I read this story about how in 1980 the New York State Health Department ran tests on gold jewelry, and they tested hundreds of thousands of pieces of gold jewelry for radioactivity because they found out that. Back in the 1930s or 40s, there's this form of chemotherapy called brachytherapy, where they take radioactive gold pellets and they surgically inserted them in people as a form of chemotherapy. And then somebody got these radioactive gold pellets and smelted them down and made them into gold jewelry. And they're still radioactive. And so people wore this jewelry, and then, like, weirdly enough, they developed like skin cancer, skin diseases. And so I was like, well, wait a minute. What if there was something even worse, in Delta Green? And so what if in the course of this mass investigation of gold, someone else found something else, other people who are having some sort of like, illness related to wearing gold jewelry, but it wasn't skin disease, and that uncovered something unnatural. So like I took a real world thing and then like, well, what if we added, an unnatural element to it, or it uncovered something else. So a lot of times it's just like something I read or something I hear about, and I think, well, what if there was a murder about it, or what if there was a conspiracy about it, or what if there was, an organized crime group working on it. So, but yeah.
I work from either end of motivations. So like if I have an antagonist or a culprit of some sort, call him the big bad wolf. I gotta understand what the big bad wolf wants to do. Wants to eat people in the forest and get away with it. Makes sense. And then I work from the hook. So how do we get our players in there? Hey, go bring these cookies to grandma. Like that is that. And from there, you can write the story in between where those two motivations are going to collide. Like, so Little Red Riding Hood just has a normal Saturday. If she doesn't get the cookies, it has to go to grandma's house. The big bad wolf gets away with it if it isn't for these meddling kids. Like, you're working at it from both sides. And that's where I go back to like idiot plotting the antagonist sometimes. Because like, it's great when they would have absolutely gotten away with it, but for this one stupid thing that brings the players involved, and then that unravels everything. So that is how I kind of do it. I kind of work from either ends with the motivations, just to make sure I know where my players are going to come in and that they have a reason to be there and figure this out. And then I have an antagonist that is not concerned with them. They are concerned with doing crimes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I typically run sandbox campaigns that are very important to people. And a challenge that I have is coming up with a meaningful, feel-good conclusion, right? So what's the suggestion around sandbox campaigns and getting a good conclusion for players?
Okay. A good conclusion for a sandbox mystery campaign. Okay. Usually these this is like a big like a cold case or like something like some big mystery, right? That like usually it would be it kind of depends on the genre and like you're doing for it. Like in horror, it's a satisfying conclusion is that you get to see the big bad and then kill it with a ritual, or at least have some sort of dramatic confrontation with it, right? Like, it's not like, well, we framed him for tax evasion and he went to prison, and then we had someone in prison murder him. So like that's not quite as dramatic as like kicking the door into the basement and shooting him while he's trying to summon like some horrible monster or whatever. Yeah, like what genre are you usually running?
Definitely horror.
Okay.
Specifically my Delta Green, like I do like to dip into more surreal stuff.
Okay.
So that stuff seems to have a weird need for payoff where everything's kind of weird until it's not. So like the interest comes up at the front because people are like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But at the end, it's like, well, how do you make that wrap up?
Yeah.
Right?
I'd say that for a sandboxy kind of thing, you want mysteries are intrinsic motivation in gaming. Like, you don't solve a mystery in game because you want XP. You don't solve a mystery in a game because you want to have a cooler sword most of the time. You solve a mystery in the game because the mystery is the story and the story is the game. Like, your reward for engaging in the story more is more of the story. So when you have a climax to that, whether it's sandbox or more linear, you want it to be a satisfying arc in the story for someone. Now, with a sandbox, your opening in that is that maybe it's not the villain. Like, a good monologue is great, revealing what they did, shaking their fists, like, damn you, meddlesome agents. That works, obviously. But like, you also have like existential detectives, like, yeah, I solved this horrible crime and maybe it was kind of anticlimactic when I did it, but I learned that I'm an obsessive and this is why my family doesn't love me. Or I learned that life itself is the mystery that we must solve. The problem in the sandbox is that the climax has to be a character arc turning point, and that needs to be of a part with what's come before. And with the sandbox, you don't know exactly the route they're going to take to get there. So you kind of have to be open to those multiple things. For me, in a climax, like any sort of contrapasso, which is like fitting, like, the Dante thing, a fitting punishment. Players often like that if it's like, not just like they go to jail and are out on bail in 2 years. If it's like, I killed half the town by summoning this demon and then they mess up my summoning circle and then the demon kills me. That's the ironic twist in that. A lot of players find that pretty satisfying. Yeah.
Also, if you're doing surreal stuff, like especially like the Impossible Landscapes, King and Gale thing, surreal doesn't just mean random weird stuff. Like, it means like it's very character focused and it's very personal. Like, it start incorporating the characters' backstories and backgrounds into it for improbable reasons. Like, the suspect knows somebody that the character knew in their childhood, and like how could this be? And like more uncanny coincidences and weird things mirroring the character's deepest fears and that sort of thing until. Look at the movie Jacob's Ladder as a possible example for that. So, good question. Yes.
Hi. I was wondering, do you guys like having red herrings in your games? And if you do, how do you implement that?
The question is, do you use red herrings in your games, and do you like using them? And how do you use them? A lot of times red herrings are not something the GM plans. It's just the players will do it for you. They're like, I hate Steve. Steve, that gas station clerk, he's in on it. We got to investigate Steve, and and then when they don't find anything, I bet we're gonna frame him for murder. I really hate Steve. I've never really. Occasionally, I'll do it if it's a really challenging scenario, but like most of the time, like 90% of the red herrings I've dealt with are players just like, I don't know how they got to that conclusion, but they do. Yeah. Caleb?
I've included them sometimes. I agree with Ross. You don't need to. Players are going to make up their own and derail everything on their own. You don't have to waste time doing it for them. But at the same time, like, if you want to include a red herring, don't let it be an actual full-blown red herring. Like, if I include a red herring, like someone we're investigating that's clearly not the cause, the goal for the players getting that should be still forward progress in the scenario. So for instance, like if the big bad is paying a street gang to like spray paint his evil messages around town. Like, I don't want that to be a red herring of like, we've stopped their graffiti gang and now we're back onto the serial murderer. I want it to be like, oh, in stopping that, we realize that this person is planned ahead, they have funds, they have some sort of access to this gang of graffiti artists to let them negotiate a clandestine deal. Like, there's a ton of stuff that they can then pull to get back onto the main thread of the adventure, because it's not just some random kid that was like, I don't know, I thought it looked cool. That's why I was spraying the yellow sign everywhere. Who are you? Like, you don't want it to be like Big Lebowski red herring, where they're like attacking the kid that stole the car. Like, you want it to be some way to tie back into your main plot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good question. Any others? I think, well, going a little more on red herrings, a lot of them can be like, have it like you're investigating drug traffickers and then the players just stumble on another drug trafficker, and, you know, make it like a side quest in some ways. Like, it's something that they can, even as like a side mission or something like that. And like, and another thing is also like create or add connections that weren't there before. So if like the players really get in investigating some other group of drug traffickers and then like, well, then just put a lead at the end of it that, haha, they are connected to the plot. Like, you can always change circumstances when the lead up, the red herring becomes an actual clue if the players get really into it, you know. That's the great thing about G. I mean, it's all black box. The players don't know that you're just making it up as you go along. So, yeah.
Just curious, like, what's your philosophy about using skill checks to do the recontextualization? Because the checks could fail.
Yeah. You don't want to, like, you know, you have the gumshoe theory of this, whereas like you get the core clue no matter what, and then everything else is additional information that might help you survive the core clue. I think that's a very good standardized way to do it. Yeah, I wouldn't have anybody roll for something if it is vital to the plot. But that's the cool thing about recontextualization. Like, maybe they make that roll later. Maybe somebody else makes that roll later. Maybe they fail something and there's no longer a need to roll because the context is obvious. And the story has gone that way because of the failed roll. But when you get to that third person objective perspective, you give them the visual information. You give them the physical layout. That never goes away. And it can be recontextualized any number of ways. So, yeah, that is kind of tricky. There are systems where you never roll for anything like that. There are systems where you're going to roll for some of that stuff because it's not vital to progress of the story. Yeah, I like being able to miss clues. Some people are completely antithetical to that. I like building that into stuff that I do because I think it makes a more interesting story. Like in my game Red Markets, you have to investigate to find a job to start. And my rule is you're going to get one because we all showed up to play. But after that, you don't know how much money it's going to offer. You don't know if it's a trap. You don't know if there's a better one. And all that stuff's locked behind skill rolls because I think it's interesting and it makes the same kind of written session go in a lot of different directions once characters are just like, well, I don't want that job. I want this one because it pays more. Or that one pays more, but I don't trust that guy. So I'm going to go for this third one. And all that's behind skill rolls of like, what do I know about them? How have I heard about their reputation? So I think that stuff's interesting. So I'm not a purist as in like, give them all the clues all the time without any skill checks. That said, you can, if you are a roll for everything, Pathfinder brained kind of person, you can just, the dice can just lock you out of your own story, and you don't want to let them have the ability to do that.
Do you give players, like, let's say in Delta Green, an added 20% if they ask insightful questions or something like that?
You can do it like if they ask insightful questions. You can do it if they spend a lot of time on it. You can give them additional rolls if they failed it the past time. I do that a lot in God's Teeth, since the mystery's so weird and esoteric. Like, every time you figure out one clue, it gets easier to find out the next one by like 20%. There's lots of ways to do that. Yeah, I think to mainly just want to avoid locking yourself out of your own narrative.
Yeah, I mean, skill rolls can also be like represent the cost it takes you to get the clue. Like you get the clue, but like, is this going to be quick and easy, and or is it going to be excruciating and cost your character resources like willpower or even sanity, or like alienate people or alert the bad guy? Like if maybe you get the clue, but the bad guy has a person on the inside, and they're like, you should check out these detectives and maybe murder them. So that's another way of handling skill rolls, is just the cost of getting it. So there's another,
For running mysteries in like D&D or Pathfinder and stuff, where you have classes that aren't built around investigating, how do you make like clues or investigations that are like not just your investigator or your rogue doing all of it? Like your barbarian is just as important in this as well as the person who has all the skills.
Yeah. The question is how to do investigations in like D&D and fantasy games where some characters don't have abilities focused on investigation. Again, it comes about to interpreting information, gathering information, interpreting information. You could do a mystery that's like, we need the barbarian to go into the tavern and knock some people around to like get into the basement to find, because that's where the ritual site was, or to like lean on a guy to get information. The barbarian can intimidate people to get clues. And a lot of it's not like, checking a crime scene. It's like, who do you trust? Like, you could do a Rashomon thing where it's like, well, this person tells this story and this person tells this story. The dead guy tells this story because we can speak with dead, but like they all have different versions of the same event. You can make a mystery for any sort of character class. It's just how you get the information, and then it's up to the players to interpret it. Like, what does it mean? If someone in a green cloak left the forest at midnight, who was it? Who was wearing who was that person? They set the fire, but like, was it the princess? Was it the bugbear, or was it someone else? Just set your clues behind gates that the barbarian can solve. Literal gates, like lift gates, bend bars, kind of thing. Yeah.
A lot of investigation is not intelligent. Like it doesn't require that skill. Like a lot of it is just scut work, and a lot of things are probably available to your non-thief characters with the less cerebral skill sets than they realize. The problem might be like your players don't really know how to do that. Like, I'm a barbarian with an intelligence of 8. Like, I need to investigate the Thieves Guild, right? I don't know how to do any of that. I just know that Shifty Jimmy's part of the Thieves Guild, all right? So I go into the bar as my big barbarian self. I go, Shifty Jimmy, my old friend. I remember when we used to be part of the fantasy police. I love you so much. I can't wait to talk to you later about anything that's going on about this town. Hey, everyone, it's Shifty Jimmy, my friend from the fantasy police. And Shifty Jimmy's like, I'm going to die. You're going to, like, Shifty Jimmy's not part of the fantasy police. It doesn't matter. Like, you've just put a giant target on Shifty Jimmy's head. And then when Shifty Jimmy's like, I don't want to die, the barbarian could be like, tell me story now. And like, that's what cops do. It's called hanging a jacket on somebody. Like, oh, you don't want to talk? Sure. Let's just show all your friends you not talking to me. We'll drive around town. You'll wear a jacket with my logo on the back. You can have a fun time not talking to me, and I'm sure all your friends will believe it. Like, so it can be like really physical. Like, the wizard did not expect anyone to climb the Tower of Pain and get a top-down view of his secret rooftop garden. Yeah, like you can. A lot of it can just be really physical, really blunt stuff that will still open up a big part of a mystery. Yeah.
Like in terms of TV detectives, like, yeah, the rogue is or wizard would be like Columbo, but like Reacher, he also solves crime because he is big, and he's very effective at it.
Yeah.
So, that's fun. Yeah. Yes.
Do you ever feel like you've added too much to scenario you're writing, and you're like, that's not good at all, and you just delete like a whole page afterwards?
I've deleted entire scenarios, nay books. So I have to do that quite a bit. It's for me. It's more because I'm working for Delta Green, and it's so obsessed with verisimilitude. just so obsessed with how it would really work up until the point that the tentacle monster shows up. And so like it can be very easy to let it sprawl and keep going way, way outside. Now, for me, I am also in a position where if I don't write that stuff out, I get angry comments by someone who does that for a living. And like, that's not how it works. So I'm in a constant negotiation with that. That said, if you're not writing for publication in like a very niche IP like that, less is almost always fine. More is almost always unnecessary. You don't need it. Your players will vibe it out. They'll figure that out. So yeah, brevity's great. If you can do it, it sucks to delete that much or more, but if you can make the story without it, it's probably going to be better without it, just because it's going to be leaner. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have to write for Delta Green publication, so I don't run into that problem as much, because if you're good at improving, all you have to do is kind of think of the basic structure of how the crime happened, and then you can kind of intuit how a clue would work for it. Like if the players, someone found a diary with all this weird information and is investigating it, and that alerted Delta Green, like, why are you going to the library and looking up Cthulhu, bro? And like, but you know where the diary came from and who wrote it and what happened to them. You can sort of make inferences about it. And so when the players go at it from a certain angle, you can like, okay, well, it happened this year and that kind of thing. So like, just have an outline. And if you can think on your feet, you can just kind of think of like that information ecosystem, like where this information wound up and how players could get it. And you can kind of generate clues and leads by your understanding of the basic story. If you're, so if you're chronically overwriting, just try and write less and see if you can improvise the connective tissue between the main plot points.
What is different for you guys about writing a shorter mystery versus, or like something that's supposed to take place over maybe just a few sessions or even a one shot versus something that's going to be like a longer form thing, like maybe even an entire campaign?
Yeah, like a one shot is like someone broke a window and the footprints lead that way, and like that's going to take 2 hours to resolve. It's a lot less than you think. Like I write Delta Green shotgun scenarios, which are 1,500 words or less. It's an annual contest, and like over the years, I realized I need to put less and less and less, because that will still eat up a night of entertainment. What you think is a one shot is really a 2 or 3 part. Like it's again writing more and less, and thinking about, like, the main thing is being able to, you don't have to write as much connective tissue between the big plots as you think. Then the standard, you just read a Delta Green scenario, and that's like 3 nights, of gameplay. At least, Caleb.
If that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, less if you want to go for a one shot. Always less than you think.
Because players will, you just have to invent one shifty NPC, and that's like an hour. As the players have to find out if Steve is trustworthy or not, or if he's really an alien,
There's, I don't sound like I'm bragging about fake fictional stories. I'm not. There's also an element of like considering your group on that. Like a pretty simple mystery, there are a lot of like complex mysteries people have run for me that I've cut through way too fast. Because like I read the Strat 4 Intelligence Diary, I love Burn Notice. Like there's no internal affairs for player character behavior, and I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to figure it out very quick. But if you don't have someone who's an obsessive like that, and they're just like used to going to the dungeon, the broken window there or the footprints is probably enough to stymie them for 4 hours. Just when you get into role playing and things of that nature.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
So specifically for longer things then, how do you keep it so that, because if you are trying to extend it over a longer time, I'm imagining you'll want to introduce your big bad or at least elements of him pretty early in the story as kind of like a hook to get the players going. But then how do you kind of breadcrumb that so that you're not giving too much right away and they're not like immediately figuring out like this is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And then how do you kind of like sort of draw that out so that you have a satisfying conclusion at the end?
I recently ran the Borrelius Connection, which is a Fall Delta Green campaign. Gail was playing it, and he was the one solving things too quickly. And they have this really great thing because there is a main antagonist for it, but he kind of comes in sort of like a mirage, where he's very distant and hazy, and you just get like a description or a vague, the chemist, you know. And then as you progress further in the campaign, you get more information about him. And like bad guys will have aliases; they'll have different descriptions, or maybe he has a lieutenant, or maybe you find out about the massacre that the chemist perpetrated, you know, something like that. So like, just think of it like something very far away is just kind of hazy and indistinct. So get like really simple short descriptions, and like as the players get closer and closer, it gets more distinct, and you can learn more about it. So yeah, it's that foreshadowing thing. Yeah.
You can also stage the big questions. So like who, what, when, where, why, the things you have to do of all investigations, and you can have scenarios per question. So like maybe what is, they figure out a big organization's doing it, but it's a big organization. I don't know who in that organization doing it. That's my second thing. All right, I figure out they're doing it. I have no idea why they're doing it. So I don't have a motive, and I don't know how to catch them. So that's the next scenario. So you can sort of piecemeal out the information that you would need for a full case, as in just like, this is a scenario, we figure out this question, this is a scenario, we figure out that question. Yeah.
I think we're at time. It's 9 or 10:50. So
yeah.
Thank you all. No, it's fine. Thank you all so much for showing up. If I haven't scanned your badge yet, please come up here. And we also have postcards for our podcast, our PPR, and the Letter and Air of Dissidence.
Thanks for visiting our Train podcast.
Yes. Yeah. And Train. Yay.